Yes, Spurs fans, welcome back to the IrishHotspur here. This is going to be your North London Derby preview fan show ahead of our game on Sunday, of course, against the lot down the road, since they are, I think, a little bit further south than we are. We're a bit further north, and of course, this is an opportunity to give us something to cling on to, I think, with the Thomas Frank era and just in general, I think, against these lot of Arsenal, because we were just saying in the back end, the last time we had any good performance against them was in Ange's first season under those first 10 games of his, where it was a very good away performance, perhaps even deserved more. But apart from that, and then a win a long time ago under Antonio Conte, where we were able to secure top four, it's just been drubbing after drubbing after drubbing. At least that's my opinion. So we're going into this one a tad bit nervous. And maybe that's a reflection of how many people we actually have on for this fan show. Last time out, I think we had like 12, 13 people on the screen after the Man United game. Now we only have the brave and of course warrior Mia to join us tonight. But Dave, I mean, we have the questions lined up. This could be a very Mia focused show, and she'll be the brave soldier to bear on these questions, I guess. But yeah, North London Derby preview fan show time.
Yeah, well, look, I'm going to have to jump in and debate where I disagree with me and stuff like that tonight. Probably debate myself at points tonight. But look, I would say it's a perfect opportunity for all you other guys that do have memberships to the channel. If you want to jump on and have your say. Surprised that the Frank Sexual usual crowd isn't on, the likes of Rain and Rhino and stuff. I'm calling them out. Where are you guys? Be nice to hear from you. Backing your boy ahead of the big North London Derby. But Jack, it's a big week. Big game for Tottenham Hotspur. I don't know why. I just have a feeling we're going to get a result, and I cannot wait to take on them South London dwellers, lad.
Yeah, that's right. Dave's still living off the high of course, Ireland stealing the show over international break. And to be fair, Scotland also, I guess, to a degree as well, had a great night. They could both be at the World Cup, which would be great news. And Dave is still feeling the highs and the happy clapper vibes of course, going to the World Cup playoffs. And he's carrying it on with the good vibes into the North London Derby. Let's welcome in some people, and then we'll get on with the show. Kevin Ferguson, good to see you. He's saying your thoughts on playing a back three against Arsenal. I think we need to be physical in this game. I believe that's going to be a main talking point, in this fan show, as well as also the pre-match buildup and all that good stuff, and maybe even the members preview as well. What sort of formation we should be going with in order to secure a victory. William Webb, big up, guys. Come on, you Spurs. Logan THFC is in the house as well. Big up to Moondog. Hopefully everything's all right with you, Moondog. Yep. And Charlie as well. William Webb bringing up Johnson's goal, and Wales absolutely smashing North Macedonia. I think it was a must-win game for them, and boy, did Wales show up. Scotland, Wales, Ireland, all really stealing the show over international break. And Johnson scored what looked like to be a fantastic goal from outside the box. I was thinking, is that the only goal he's ever scored from outside the box at, maybe since his time at Spurs? Because I never see, when he does shoot from outside the box, usually goes even higher than Basuma's shots do. He usually balloons it out of the stadium. And then that time it was an absolute screamer. And I was just wondering, can we get this version of Brendan Johnson, please, over at Tottenham Hotspur? Because boy, did he look so much better than what we see him in a Spurs shirt. Almost Potato saying hello all. Come on, you Spurs. Tyler's in the house. Big T. Hopefully everything's all right with you, my friend. El Dante celebrating 15 months as a member. Yes, guys, how are we? Romero to score 1-0. That would be great. Nice 1-0 win over at their place. Set piece coach gets to give a stare down to the opposition bench. That would be great. Dan Coys is in here as well. Evening, Dave and Jack. Finally, Spurs are back. But what Spurs will we see at the North London Derby? Come on, New Harris Army. I'm a little nervous out of this one, Dan, because I'm just not too confident ahead of these. But we do have Mia, who's very brave, and we do have Dave, who's going into this a lot more confident than I am. So hopefully we bring a bit of balance on this occasion when it comes to it. But Dave, might as well get into the show, I guess, and preview this North London Derby.
Let's go.
Well,
like I said, guys, just quickly, sorry. Like I said, guys, don't be afraid to come on. Tyler, I know you wanted to come on last week and call me out. You failed to do so. The option is still there to come on this week and do it. Moondog, you have a lot to say. William Webb, Dan, everybody, get on here and have your say.
Yeah. Should we start at maybe, I believe it was Kevin Ferguson's question, right, on the formation. Mia, what are you feeling like is the right shape, the right formation to go into this game with? Dave and I think, I don't want to speak for Dave. Of course, Dave will be acting as a guest on this show, but I think a back five might be the right move ahead of this game. Something similar to what we had against PSG.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we can't go toe-to-toe with them because they are a better team. As much as we don't like to say it, They are, and I think that we nullified a bit of what PSG do by doing that. So I think that we need to do the same thing and nullify them a little bit. They haven't been playing great. I think it's more about being physical with them. I think that's important. I think that the formation is important, but I think we have to really bring it to them physically, because that's what Sunderland did, and they didn't like it. So I think if by playing the back five, I think that would give us a bit more maybe stability, and I think then we could maybe bully them a little bit, as in physically as well. And I think they haven't been playing, like I say, particularly great. So I think that gives us the best chance, personally.
I actually understand where you're coming from. I'm a bit torn on this one myself, because, you know, Arsenal, a lot of their threat really comes from set pieces. Regardless if you set up a back five, it still comes down to how you're willing to defend the set pieces at the end of the day. That's their biggest threat. They scored the most goals. And that's where I worry a little bit. But where I sort of agree with me, or where I would be swayed towards the back five, is, honestly, I don't believe we have the ability to play through that Arsenal team or that Arsenal midfield. I think before Sunderland, they went on a run of 8 games without conceding a goal, which shows how tight their back line is. So, for me, I think the only way to do it is play that back five, but go long ball and have your 2 strikers playing close together like they did against PSG, with one of them midfielders pushing right up, to support them. I think that's what worked really well against PSG. We shocked them. We went long. We just put it on them physically, and Richarlison was unbelievable that night holding up. But also I thought Kudus was equally as good, through the middle. And I think with the injuries, around the midfield, we don't know whether Bergvall is going to be back or not. He didn't go on international duty. Papa Matsar picked up an injury on international duty. Colomwani's out now as well because he broke his jaw in the United game. So given the limited options available, I think you have to look at what's available to you. And for me, that's where I would probably be swayed towards the 5-3-2 in that regard, because Mia's right. Physicality is going to be a huge thing in this game, and I just don't see us being able to play through that midfield. So I think going long ball and sticking it on top of them and bypassing it and looking to put the ball in behind, I think is the way to go. Oh, you're on mute, Jacko.
Thank you. I think having an extra center back in the case of Kevin Danzo to defend the set pieces could be a big help, right?
And long throws.
And long throws. Yeah, we might need that to resort to that. But you're totally right. No matter what sort of shape and formation you set up with, they are going to still, no matter what, be lethal and deadly from those set pieces. Maybe just having an extra big man back there could to do us a lot of help.
That's really where I worry though, Jack, because you look at the Man United equaliser set piece. Didn't track a run. We lost the North London Derby before because Romero failed to track Gabriel. Vicario's biggest weakness is under set pieces. So it doesn't really matter what shape we go with. It really all depends on us defending set pieces. If we defend them well, we have a chance of getting something out of this game.
Yeah, and I'm sort of trying to think back on maybe the teams that have gotten something against Arsenal, and I think Sunderland did set up in a pretty defensive sort of low block type of shape, and then they did stay strong and resolute from the set pieces for the most part. And then I think actually, which was crazy to think about, but I remember saying that to you the other day, I remember Pep Guardiola almost went for a bit of a, a Sean Dyche and Thomas Frankish type setup as well, where he sort of went for a very, very defensive shape and much lower block than you would normally expect from a Guardiola side to sort of counteract this Arsenal team. But we have Eugene joining us. Eugene, that's kind of the kicking off point here, is just what sort of shape, what sort of formation should Thomas Frank be going with?
I mean, I agree with Dave. I mean, 5 or 3 at the back would be the way to go. I just don't see him doing it. He hasn't done it all season since the PSG game, but that would suit us. I think he'll just set up the way he's been doing it, with Pellegrini and Bentancur at the back. And honestly, I agree with you guys. I mean, this game is going to be all about set pieces. I don't see many goals from open play, if any. It's going to be either 0-0 or 1-0. Gabriel being out is a big deal because he's their biggest weapon on set pieces, and he's been killing us, every time. So him being out definitely helps us. But yeah, set pieces will be the story of the game, I believe, because even Arsenal, they're getting points, they're winning, but they're not prolific offensively. in the attack. So I'm just hoping that Eze doesn't come back to bite us, because if Eze scores the winning goal, it's going to be a meltdown.
Yeah,
I'll be I'll be in the meltdown mode as well. That's just, but unfortunately that would be very Spurs like. I can see it happening, but hopefully 0-0 I think is the most realistic result in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Gabriel being out, I don't wish injury on any player, but I must say he's probably my least favorite player in the Premier League sometimes, just because, of course, he's wearing the Arsenal shirt. But I feel like he gets away with so much sometimes. Like, I see this guy like stranglehold people, and then the referee just sort of waves it off, doesn't even give a foul. And you see Romero touch a guy, and he's somehow given a yellow card. I find Gabriel to just be infuriating in that regard, where I like a physical defender. I like a guy that sort of does that to players, but for some reason I don't get it. I feel like he gets away with just so much. So him being out for this game is a huge relief. And from set pieces, he just throws people to the floor, and just somehow it's never blown up as a free kick or anything. And he just attacks it like a missile. Really, he's very brave in the air, and he is arguably their best goal scorer almost in a sense, because they're so dangerous from those set pieces. They sort of just let him roam around in the box and just cause havoc really, and draw all the attention. And it's him being out is a huge relief, actually, and it's probably what's needed for us to have a result.
If he wouldn't be an Arsenal player, I would really like him. Saliba gets all the shine and all the pub, but Gabriel, he's their main guy, in my opinion, for sure.
What do you? Maybe just a random question. I'm not sure if it's on the run sheet, but I mean, I think that's probably where both strengths lie. Is really just both teams have pretty excellent defenses and backlines. I mean, I don't know if I even would. I do feel like Gabriel and Saliba and Van de Ven and Romero are kind of the best partnerships really in the Premier League, to be honest. I think they're like, because when you make these sort of combined 11s, I see the brilliance in that partnership. I also feel like ours is almost equally as good, really, and I wouldn't really trade it for really anybody. But that's where maybe the two strengths lie, is both teams do have pretty excellent backlines and back fours.
For sure. My only concern is Porro, whether he can control that side. Because everywhere else, I feel like we're solid. Porro is my only concern. So he needs to help us out in attack. Because if he continues to struggle in attack, then having him is going to be a liability for us. He needs to step up.
I don't know. I don't know if I'll play Porro.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't play Porro.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
I think that's.
Go on.
Yeah, no, I think that's where a bit of a weakness is. So personally, if we're going to play back five, I wouldn't play Porro.
I agree. I think even if we play a back four, I wouldn't play Porro. I think Spence has to play right back. I just think you look at one of the goals Man United scored against us, Porro at the back post. That's an area that Arsenal are going to target. They're a big physical side, and with us going to be under the cost defending set pieces and stuff like that. For me, it's not really a game that suits Pedro Porro at all. And for me, I think it's a game where Jed Spencer and Destiny Udogie have to play fullback. I think Destiny Udogie has to play down the left-hand side. I'm sick of saying it. With him playing there, him being left-footed, it opens up another avenue where we can explode into life and attack down that side very quickly. It helps keep the width of the pitch in possession with him being left-footed down that side. But also, I think he's a great defender. I think it's one of his strongest attributes. So for me, I think the fullback selection is absolutely key here. As much as I love Pedro Porro, he is suspect and he will be a target in this game defensively. So for me, I agree with Eugene. I think it's a good talking point. I think
I mean, and I always I've been going at Frank for playing Polini Bentancur, but this is the game where we need to go defensive, set up a mid block, if not a low block, and just be very strong in the back end. And yeah, I agree. Like Porro, again, if he doesn't contribute in attack, he is a liability. And specifically for this game, Spence is definitely the way to go. Unless you think you'd want to put Spence on the left, right, to play against Saka. Because Udogie also isn't great defensively. I'm also have some concerns about him.
He's very good defensively. Why do you not rate him defensively?
I don't think he is in position in the right positions every single time. I just think he has the ability, but I think he loses his man. I don't know. I just don't think he's in the right position every single time.
Can
He
I
has
just
these
say,
moments where he falls asleep or loses focus.
but then I think Spence hasn't been great for a few games either, to be fair. I don't think Spence has been defensively absolutely solid, if I'm honest, if I'm going to be like fair about it. But I do think Adogi's better because he's quite than never people think he is, because I think he's quite quick and he's strong. And I do think that he gets back well and covers as well. Like I do think defensively he's actually not too bad. And I think he's better. And what we need to do is, if we're going to play, say what Dave said, a 5 and then a 3-2, I think that we have to remember we can't go. We're not going to probably use, because obviously the way it's going to be, we're going to have to use those men like like an Adogi and a Spence better. Like we have to make sure they're able to get forward. And Spence isn't great at going forward, but Adogi is better at going forward. So I think that's important when we're playing that kind of way.
Like I agree. I think playing Spence is a bit of a risk, especially in possession. He does lose the ball an awful lot. But I just think, with Arsenal, in possession, they are going to play with two quick wingers that are going to look to run at our fullbacks. I can't watch Pedro Porro away from home dropping off, screaming for help. It will just set the panic stations for the whole back line, the whole team. Frank will start pulling his hair out and losing his hair. I'll start crying like a little bitch. I just cannot see him do that one more time. This is a game where you need brave defenders that will go out and engage their man one-on-one and not look to tuck in all the time, because by doing that, all Pedro Porro is doing is allowing them into the box, into good crossing positions. And it's something that is happening time and time again when he's up against good wingers. Just for the one-on-one defensive ability alone, these two guys have to play. If not, mark my words, Porro is going to cost us, and he is going to be the one that's going to set. He's going to be the one that's going to be targeted early, and it's going to set off panic alarms all around the pitch. It was like Radu Dragusin when he started last year with the Emirates. I said he shouldn't be playing in that game. He's going to set off the panic alarms. Within the first minute, the guy was out at fucking right wing, and then they nearly scored straight down in the hole that he vacated. For me, it has to be Spence and Adogi. If not, we're sort of setting ourselves up for failure.
He's also
only
vulnerable.
thing about Spence. Oh, sorry. Just last thing on Spence. No. Only argument for Spence on the left is, given his ego, like he gets up to play against top wingers for big games. So
the problem with him
playing. What's that?
The problem with him playing that side, though, Eugene, is he's always going to cut inside with the ball, and you're actually passing into Arsenal's biggest, strength, which is their midfield. You're just going to constantly be passing the ball in there for them to turn it over and come straight back at you. In this game, we are going to have to use the wit and attack. If you've got two strikers up front, Destiny Adogi needs to be able to use. You need a player to be able to use the left foot to be able to clip that ball down the line so that the strikers can get out, pick up a throw in or a free kick, relieve a bit of pressure. If it's Jed Spence, he's going to turn inside. He's just going to play straight into their midfield. They're going to turn it over and be honest. It's so important. Yeah. In my opinion,
I agree. I agree. That's what I was saying. We can't use our midfield because that's where their strength is. We're going to have to use the wide men, and they've got to be both really good going when they do get the ball forward. And that's why you can't play Spence on a weaker side. You have to play him on his right and play a left footer on the left, because that gives us the best opportunity and the biggest strengths.
Yeah, I think Porro too. He's a bit vulnerable at the back post, isn't he? With any sort of cross or anything like that too. Like Dave said, he needs to always have someone, there to protect him when it comes to a dribble or kind of going at him. It's almost like he needs help crossing the street. He's that sort of type of guy. He's always waving for someone to help him. But anytime that there's a cross towards the back post, I'm always nervous. And we even saw that happen recently, in the Man United game with Mbeumo, him and Johnson just both letting Mbeumo get onto the other side of him and not even challenging for the header does sort of worry me, because that's, again, a way that I could see Arsenal really hurting us is just some sort of aimless cross towards the back post. But Porro just, for whatever reason, is asleep, doesn't seem to know that someone's there, or just doesn't even challenge for it at times. He just seems to sort of turn off, whenever those crosses come in. And I could see that being a way to hurt us. I'm all about, like what Eugene said and Mia said, going basically as physical and as defensive as possible for this game.
And the thing is, Jack, is they've got like they're big and Poro's little. We need the bigger players. Like Udogie's a big guy. Do you know what I mean? Like we need somebody who's big and strong because I think that will make a difference. Because Poro, bless him, he ain't the biggest of guys, is he? So
No.
I think that's physically we need to take them really seriously when it comes to that. And I feel like that's where we get at them. If we get at them physically a little bit, they don't like it. They do get a bit like if you keep going for Saka, you see what he does. Like he bangs the floor, he hops along, he does his little hop along game. They don't want to play physically now because now they're trying to win and they want to win by just being like winning it a bit crappy, basically, not very well. And they don't want to play that physical game. They just want to win it by a set piece. So if we bring it to them, they're not going to want that.
And Moondog here, Mia, saying Spurs to win 2-1. Nice to hear from you. He
Big
says
up.
he's hoped you're doing well, and he says we will surprise them this weekend. I believe it. Now, Dave is going into this one pretty happy clappy, feeling some sort of, positivity or whatever word you want to look. He's optimistic, I think is the better word for it. Mia, how are you feeling ahead of it? I think you told us in the back end you're a little nervous.
Yeah, I always get that nervous feeling with this game, man. It don't matter. Like, even if I feel like fairly confident, say like times when we have been a little bit more confident, I still always get that feeling. This game always gives me that sick feeling because, like I say, I hate them so incredibly much that I just want to get something out of this game. I want to bring it to them. I want to, I want to go there and bring our A game. No, like a bit of like the battle of the bridge style. I want that. I want it to be one of those games, man, where we bring it to them. I don't want us to just do what we did for Chelsea because that just makes me so upset because these are like the enemy. So I want us to show it like the like team that we're against the most. One of the teams in London. So like, yeah, man, I just feel like we need to bring our A game, and I do get a bit nervous about that because I always think, oh my God, are we going to do it? We're going to bring our A game. And the first 5-10 minutes, I sit there just biting my nails pretty much for the game.
Oh, Jack, you're on mute again.
All right, third time and, strike three for me. But we were just talking, right, about like players that we're nervous about. Dave has that as a question ahead of this game. Is there anyone else, me or Eugene, that you're potentially nervous about Thomas Frank selecting for this game other than Pedro Porro?
I would not play Simmons. I think this game is not for him. Or maybe on the left, because like Mia and you guys were just talking about Arsenal being a very physical team, and Simmons is the opposite of that at this point. Unfortunately, Sarr, the 10, would be perfect for me, just given his physicality and his energy. I feel like Simmons might get overrun like he's done, unless, even against less physical teams. So he might, I might put him on the left, but at the same time, I'm not sure who else can play at the 10 with all the injuries. So I think he's going to have a tough time finding space.
There's no Pop Matasar, I believe, available for this game.
And no
right?
Bergval. So our options are limited. But if, Simmons, this is not the game for him, in my opinion, unless, again, he plays on the left. But Odegaard has been doing pretty well. I want to see more of him. At least he can take on his man. So it's going to be interesting what Frank decides to do.
What about you, Mia? I mean, are you nervous about a Xavi Simmons playing in this game? It's hard to, I guess, leave him out. It's almost like you kind of have to play him because of the injuries. Sarr and Bergval being out really doesn't help us at all.
No, I think that Eugene is right. He isn't physically great, and it depends on how we play, I suppose, and whether he gets a lot of the ball. I just can't see him having a lot of the ball regardless, if I'm honest, because I just don't think playing that way through the midfield, I don't know how much of the ball he's really going to get, how much service he's going to get, because we're going to find it quite difficult. So he's probably not someone that I would say would be the one to play, but we've got such limited options, man. Even if we played the 5 at the back, then obviously we could put him on the left. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's a really difficult one, man. It's difficult, but I think that he will play. Even like whatever formation we play, I think he will play.
Yeah, it's an interesting one with Xavi Simmons because it's one of them. It's going to be a mad physical game, and if you play him sort of in that number 10 role, I just fear he's going to get swallowed up. I just fear, they're just going to take the ball off him like Sweet's taking the ball off a baby. But we have brought him to be the difference maker in these sort of games. So, I mean, on that basis, do you have to sort of fit him in? I think there's definitely an option to maybe play Kudus through the middle. I think this could be a game, if you want to play him in the number 10 and put Xavi out one side, Nudabar out the other side. If you were playing a back four, I think it's certainly an option. But it's one of them. I just think the first 15, 20 minutes, I think you've got to play your most physical players. And I think if Papa Matar is fit, because I know the Senegal coach tried to play down the injury, and he didn't travel for the second game, I think then there's certainly a shout to play Papa Matar in there, because I think you need someone with his sort of abilities. But it could be a situation with numbers being so limited that he might be forced to play. I think this will be a game for Xavi Simons later on in the game off the bench to make an impact. When the game's more stretched, there's more space and stuff like that. I think that's what I would do with Xavi Simons in this game, is I'd look to take him off the bench and not necessarily start him. If Papa Matar is fit, I would start him ahead of him. I just think you need that physicality, someone that can compete in the air, compete on the ground, get stuck in, isn't afraid to track back, follow runners, do the dirty side of the game. And look, Papa Matar for me is a big game player. Europa League final, we wouldn't have scored unless it was him picking up the ball, putting that cross in and stuff like that. He done it how many times against Man United last year? Always steps up against Man City. For me, if this guy's fit, he has to start in the number 10, and I think it'd be more of a game suit for Xavi Simons to come later on in the game rather than starting, because I feel like if you start him in this game, because you got to remember, this isn't just a normal away game. We are walking into a hostile atmosphere. We are absolutely hated there. They're going to stick it on us from minute one and look to get a fast start and a fast goal. They always do at the Emirates. Every single time we play them, no matter what form, they go at us for the first half an hour, and it's almost relentless. We have to play our most physical players from the off. If he starts Xavi Simons, and like I said, if he starts Porro, I think we're in big trouble.
Yeah. One exception.
Just quickly, I don't want to hear excuses after the game if it backfires about injuries, this, that, and the other. If he's had about 18 games now, he should know the temperament of his players. He should know the capability of his players, and he should know exactly, who should be starting this game. At the end of the day, he's been experiencing these situations before with Brentford, walking into these sort of games. He should know what the demands are, the physicality and stuff like that. And he should know that your most physical players have to start from the off here.
He's gotten it wrong more times than right, though. So I think that's the other thing why we feel that way. It feels like he's selected the wrong lineup more than one occasion where you can't really give him the benefit of the doubt, it feels like at this point. But sorry, Mia.
Can I just say as well, one thing I like about Papa Matar is that he will also take shots from outside the box, which none of our other players actually do, and he does score them too. So I think actually he would be, if he's fit, I would 100% start him, because I do think I only said Xavi because I thought Sarr's definitely injured. I thought if he's injured, then obviously we've got not much option. But if I had the option of Sarr, 100%, because you've seen that he scores those goals. At least he takes a chance, man, and we need somebody who's going to take that chance, because otherwise we're going to rely on set pieces. And if we've got somebody who's got that threat, I think that's only going to make them think as well that, we've got Sarr as well, because he can score. So yeah, I think he's definitely somebody I would play if he's available.
Crazy.
Sorry, just quickly. The thing is with that number 10, he's going to have to be your box-to-box midfielder. It can't be a holding, or it can't be just, it's going to have to be box-to-box in this game. Sorry.
Everywhere. Everywhere.
I'm just saying, call me crazy, but especially if we start Spence on the right, where we know he'll do well defensively, maybe if we decide to play on the counter, which we should, I would even think I would start Kudus at the 10 and Johnson on the right, because Johnson, for all his faults, at least he's the one who might score a goal. I just don't see anybody else scoring. So if we do play on the counter and we rely on pace, maybe Kudus at the 10 and just say, hey, Johnson, Spence is going to cover you. Just, get at the end of those tap-ins, because otherwise we might be in trouble.
Yeah. I just fear with Brennan Johnson, games before.
Yeah, I agree.
When the physical, when teams stick it on us physically, he goes hiding. And again, I think he's a player. If if Frank isn't forced into it through injuries and stuff, again, I think he's a player you bring off the bench later on. Simmons, Johnson, more space, more. You get more out of them. I just think for the first half an hour, especially for the first half, you've got to play your physical players. You have to.
I'm worried about Sarr because it was described as a knock, which means he's out for the season, basically. We're probably out for 3 seasons, knowing us.
Let's play bingo. Sarr bingo. How long do we think he's going to be out for?
I wanted the Senegal manager basically to say, it's a super serious injury, because that means he'll be back in like a week or 2, where when it's a knock, he'll be out for the season. Ryan, man, we're talking about what sort of shape and formation he should be going with, and also which players he should be selecting, because Thomas Frank has gotten, especially maybe the team selection, wrong a couple of times this season.
Well, first of all, big up Dave and Jack. Congratulations, Dave, on the Irish actually making the playoffs. So congratulations on that. You'll make it to the finals, and then we'll beat you somewhere in the group stages or the latter stages. But hey, we'll get to that at a later date, Dave. But no, congratulations on that.
Going to be on now that you've said that.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said Dermot will appear out of nowhere now that you said about England beating the Irish.
Yeah, true, probably. But no, I'm not expecting anything from this. I'm expecting an absolute thrashing, right? I'm not going to sit here and say I'm being delusional. I'm expecting an absolute thrashing.
Mastermind, though, Ryan.
Huh?
I thought Frank was the Messiah, the mastermind.
Yeah, but he can only do so much, Dave. And and like against Arsenal, right?
So there's the truth.
Oh, he's actually agreeing with me for once. Oh my God.
The goalposts are moving right now. The goalposts.
The Messiah could turn water into wine, but he couldn't beat Arsenal away from home.
No, he can, but then there's only so much he can do, right? And I'm not even gonna sit here and I'm not having this that people are gonna start. Like I've said, Frank's my man, but he can only play with the players he can only work with the players that he's got, and at the moment, the players that he has got are not up to standard. So I honestly don't know. I'm not expecting anything. I'm gonna watch it, but I'm not expecting nothing. I'm not gonna sit here and say that this is gonna be a defining game in our season, because it's nowhere near. It's like I've been saying about Thomas Frank. This is a free hit. If we get something, fine. We get something, I'll be over the moon with that. But I'm not going to sit here and say that Frank's going to get anything. I honestly think it doesn't matter who he plays, what formation he plays. As long as I don't see Richarlison and I don't see Brandon Johnson, like I've heard people, when I first came in, saying that they want to see Johnson. I don't, or whatever. Well, I don't want to see Johnson. I'd rather. Oh, and there he comes. And
just quickly, though, Ryan. I'm not having this when it comes to Thomas Frank about having no pressure on him heading into the North London derby. At the end of the day, you may not put pressure on him, but I think in general, an unsavory performance. Look, I get it, right? Injuries, etc. Right? It's hindering our ability heading into the North London derby. But the reality is, it all comes down to performances. If we put in a lot of effort and the performance is good, fine. But if we don't, and it ends up similar, like large parts of the Man United game, like we did against Chelsea, I think ultimately many fans will start critiquing Frank more. I think the pressure will pile on him a hell of a lot more. And the reality is, I don't buy this notion that you're saying that he's got crap players. The whole reason why you wanted Thomas Frank in the first place is because he can get the best out of players that aren't of a greater quality and stuff like that. That was one of the whole reasons why a lot of Spurs fans wanted him in, because he gets the best out of what he has, like he done at Brentford and stuff like that. So there's no way the guy gets a free pass. At the end of the day, there's expectations heading into games. And another thing around Thomas Frank is he gets the best out of a bad situation. He's a tactical guru. Despite what he has available to him, he's great tactically to be able to go and get results out of these sort of games. And I'm not being funny, but this is the exact environment that you and many others were telling me Frank thrives in. So he doesn't get this sort of excuse. Don't get me wrong. It hinders, the injuries and stuff like that will hinder our ability. And I'm not naive or stupid enough to sort of put everything on Thomas Frank. But to sit here and say he gets a free pass and everything else is absolutely ludicrous when all the reasons why people like you highlighted he should be given the job and stuff like that. But then, look, you got James here. I did want to bring up this comment. He says, we've got a crap record at Arsenal. It is 1 win in the last 32 league games at the Emirates. That is the record as it stands. A win can't be expected. And I don't think anyone's expecting a win. But I think we're expecting to be able to try and go in and compete somehow. What we won't accept is being absolutely railroaded for 90 minutes at the Emirates. It will ring panic alarms absolutely everywhere. But he says, I want to see much more fight. The fight that they didn't show versus Chelsea. Simmons must start. And I agree with you. I think that's what Spurs fans want to see. We want to see fight. We want to see, regardless of, having limited options, we still have to try and find a way of trying to lay a glove on Arsenal, trying to get something out of this game. So I think the way Thomas Frank approaches this game is absolutely huge, given the way he approached the United game, the Chelsea game, etc. So it's going to be very, very interesting. But look, we'll welcome Dermo in, first of all. Good evening.
Hang on a minute. I'm only on for a few minutes. I'm only on for a few minutes, so you can speak all you like after I'm gone. What does I hear?
Congratulate Ireland, that's why.
Now, did someone say that you think? Did somebody say that England could beat Ireland? Did somebody say that? Rhino,
Rhino.
Go away and have another apple juice. Right? You watch Ireland, okay? You watch that game on Sunday. Excitement to the end. We know how to excite our fans. Watch England. You want to go to sleep. That's how boring they put me to sleep. Ireland are the greatest team in the world, Rhino. There's nobody better than the Republic of Ireland. We're going to qualify for the World Cup and we're going to win it. So
just hopefully you don't come up against the mighty Azerbaijan in the playoff final, because that's
that's true. But we did beat yeah, that's true. But look, you have to go. You have to break it through a few eggs to make an omelette.
My God,
you do have to
Dermot, you've gone full on delusional. You've gone full on delusional about Ireland, man. Chill.
Yeah.
Look, can I just say, on Sunday, very quickly, I am no illusions. We're in for a tough game in the Emirates on Sunday. We have 1 win there, as you say, Dave, in 30-odd games. I'm usually the most positive Tottenham fan going. I'm even not expecting us to lose there or get a draw. If we get a draw, I'd be wholly happy. All I want to see is commitment, playing for the shirt, and giving 110%. It is a London derby at the end of the day. It is pride. Pride's at stake. If we lose, but we go down fighting, I'm happy. If we win, I'd be over the moon. I'd be ecstatic. But we have to be realistic here. Arsenal are in a far better place than we are. But you put that to one side. It's a North London derby. Anything can happen. Anything can happen in the London derby. And I just we got to be realistic about it. We can all be delusional like I can be. We can all be, we're going to win. We're going to win 2-0. We got to look at where Arsenal are. You got to look where we are. Yes, do I want us to win more than anything in the world? Am I going to be realistic about that? Probably not. But I'm being realistic. If we get a draw, I'd be happy. We can't score goals. We can't score goals. We've got the weakest front line I've ever seen in a long time at Tottenham. Arsenal have a very good front line and a very good midfield. We have a better defence than Arsenal. I think if you play for play, I think Romero's better, Van de Ven's better. Udogie and Porro, probably the questions are out on that one. But you've got to be realistic. You've got to be realistic. Like we're going into a very difficult place where we don't usually win.
But we compete with PSG. There's no reason why we still can't go in and compete with Arsenal. We compete with PSG.
Yeah, of course we can. Yeah, but as long as we show commitment and 110%, anything can happen. Look at Ireland on Sunday. Nobody gave us a damn chance after the first 3 games, Dave. You and me both said we're not qualifying out of this group. We beat Portugal 2-0. And I always say, if you get a good result, you got to back it up in the next one. And we did. Anything can happen. Football's a funny old game. So, if we go there and we give 110%, who knows what can happen? Who knows what can happen? But you know,
No, I mean Dermo's correct. I agree. No, you're spot on. Like but on the other hand, I've been saying it's very silly for anybody to call for Frank to be sacked, right? A manager needs to be given a year. However, if the players lay down to Arsenal like we did against Chelsea, those calls for Frank to be sacked are going to be even louder, and I'm not going to be able to push back on that because against Chelsea
Can't
and
take them all on
Arsenal,
at once.
those are the two games that the players need to step up, and the manager needs to earn his paycheck. So, as Dermo said, I don't expect to win, and the result for me is less important than a performance. We need to put in a good shift and to show that we care about the game. Otherwise, the pressure on Frank is going to be building even more.
I just imagined Eugene and Ryan like the Jon Snow scene in Game of Thrones with the sword, battling all the Frank out.
It might happen. It might happen.
Should we be going into the North London Derby with such a defeatist mentality, though? Is that not a concern? Like, at the end of the day, it is football. It is just 11 men playing 11 men on the pitch, and anything can happen on any given day. And I'm not being funny, but, like, we've proven against PSG, we can give a team a right go. We beat Man City away from home. Huh?
The PSG game was a preseason game where last 5 minutes, they showed us if they want it, they can score at will. Before, they were just messing around, if you like. I'm not saying it was a bad performance, but comparing that to a high-intensity environment, again, my concern is Chelsea. Like, we saw what the players showed in a high-pressure environment, and I'm hoping that was an aberration rather than, right, what we're going to see. So I just want to see players actually play for the badge. Win or lose, I want to see effort, I want to see passion and intensity. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough go.
No, to be honest,
attitude.
No, to be honest, Dave, right? I don't.
You started the defeatist attitude.
I can't see us winning. There's no way, right? They've got much better players than us, right? And when I'm like that,
but we know that. But the whole reason why you wanted Thomas Frank in the first place is because he can get results out of these games with a less talent pool available to him. That's why people like you wanted him in the first place.
Yeah, he had one of the best records. One of the best records against top 6 teams, if I recall. That was part of the reason he was.
Yes, but the squad's not good enough. It never has been, right? The only reason, right, why the squad's look. Let's put it like this, right? And people can probably are going to say that I'm being contradictive here a little bit, right? But
just a little bit.
When it comes down to it, right, we were not bad. Our team was not bad enough to finish 17th last season, right? But it's not good enough to be where we want, where it should be, and that's why I've said we're going to finish between the likes of 6th and 8th, 7th, about 6th or 7th this year, and that's why, right? When people want to have no, because I'm being realistic, right? I know it's going to be a hard start, and it's been a good start. Don't get me wrong, right? We beat the likes of Man City, but that was literally because Frank has his way of dealing with things. But when it comes down to it as well, you can't do nothing when you know that there's someone like Saka running down the wing, or you got what's his name on the other side, the Brazilian kid. Oh, Gabriel Martinelli. Yeah, that's it. Thanks. Right, but when it comes down to it, it's for me. I personally think it's going to be you've got to have say, here we go. I'm a hypocrite. Okay, fine. I'm a hypocrite, but do you know what? Right, what I will end off by saying on this part of it is that
you see where he's coming from, though?
The whole season. Sorry, Dave.
Do you see where he's coming from, though?
No, because
Rhino, hold on. You were saying, and people who backed Frank in the beginning were saying he comes in, he improves players. So yes, we all agree the players are not good enough, but I want to see some improvement. Tell me one player who's improved. Porro fell off the face of the earth. There's no player who I can say really improved from last season, bar maybe Van der Ven. So yes, we can say Frank doesn't have the players. However, the reason why he was brought in and Ange was sacked is that Ange wasn't improving players and Frank is supposed to improve players. And he's the tactician. So we don't see the tactics, we don't see the adjustments, and the players are not improving, and we're getting worse every game. So what's
okay,
happening?
can I put this to you then?
Talk to me.
Can I put this to you then, Eugene? Right? I'm normally always, because I don't agree with anything you say, and usually I go the wrong way about it, right? But tonight I'm going to put it like this: we are defensively solid, yeah. We are much defensive. We are solid defensively, right? We can literally defend for our lives, but that's not going to be enough because we haven't got the players in attack. But right, there are times where you can say there have been improvements. He's tactically aware, right? And I will say this, and I've said this from the beginning. He's tactically aware, but
who improved?
is it going to be
Tell me
enough?
the players who improved right now. Which players actually improved from last season?
I would make the case that I actually agree with your point, Eugene, that everyone made the case that everyone was gonna get so much better under Thomas Frank, like, so quickly. I agree with you. Like, you're making a good point. But just to be slightly fair, you would argue that all of our defenders last season were made to look very foolish and were made to look very poor, and then they do look a lot better now because it's a more cohesive unit. And then I would say that he is getting more out of. I don't even know if this is Thomas Frank getting more out of him. I think it's just with time, the player grows, but Odegaard is getting stronger on the ball. He's getting more progressive. And I don't even know if that's a Thomas Frank thing. I think that's just Odegaard getting used to the Premier League and getting used to playing at this sort of level. But let's just take this quickly from Ray, because it's very generous. And he's saying, top quality show, boys. We can batter the Woolwich. We have to believe. And that was where Dave was coming from originally. Ray was, we got to. What is this defeatist attitude coming from? Because Dave is going into it with a bit of happy clapping belief. He was feeling optimistic, but for some reason, Ray, Thomas Frank's biggest fan, Rhino here, is the least optimistic for whatever reason.
What I'm saying is the excuse is already coming, before the actual game happens. At the end of the day, we're up against our arch enemies. If the players can muster some of the same passion and pride for the club that the Spurs fans have, that can drag you a long way in these sort of games. You look at a lot of the Arsenal games recently, their players have turned up for it. They understand what it takes to win a North London derby. They get physical, they rough you up, but also, and they've shown the ability to be able to win these games. We haven't, but at some point that has to change. They can come to our place and pick up results. Why can't we go into their place? Take a bit from Ireland. We were dead and buried. We were playing shit. The manager, the whole nation wanted the manager sacked, even before the Portugal and Hungary game. All of a sudden, we win 2 massive games back to back. All of a sudden, we could be on our way to the World Cup, and the guy's an absolute genius. That's how quick football can change. But at the end of the day, Spurs fans should always go into this game showing a bit of fight for the badge. At the end of the day, if you're going to show that defeatist attitude, I don't want to hear anyone complaining then that had that attitude heading into the game if the players display that on the pitch then on the weekend. At the end of the day, show some pride for your football club, and anything can happen in football. And derby games, they've always said, and it's always been a true saying, form goes out the window in these sort of games. I'm not sitting here saying it's not a big task. The top of the league, very dangerous from set pieces. I get it. But at the end of the day, if they win this, it could be the game they need to go on and sort of win the league and put another string of results back to back to back to back. If we win, we derail their title hopes, and then we also propel ourselves and we use that momentum moving forward. At the end of the day, it's a big game, and I don't like going into a defeatist attitude. I won't go into Chelsea with it. I don't go into West Ham with it. I'm certainly not going to go into Woolwich Wanderers with it either.
All right, Dave, come all in.
Can I
just say, I've not spoken for a while. Hold up.
Yeah.
Right. It just feels like we're going into it with excuses already to why we're going to be losing. Now, I don't expect us to win. I've not said that. I think it'd be 1-1 draw. Right. But we need to get something out of this game, and we need to show that fight, that passion, and that wanting to try and at least win it, try and actually do something and not just sit back and be afraid. And I think that's what Dave's saying, right? It feels like you're just making excuses before we even get there. And that's just such a bad mentality to have in any walk of life, just to be defeatist before you get there. Do you do that in everyday life? Think, oh, well, I'm actually not going to bother doing that. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it because I can't do it. Like, you don't have that attitude, man. You've got to go in with like a positive attitude. And it feels like the reason you're doing that is if Frank loses, then you can be like, oh, well, I said he was going to lose. I didn't expect him to win. That's not the attitude to have, man. If you support Tottenham, you always want them to go in with get the best result. I can never predict us to lose, especially against those scumbags. Especially against those scumbags. I won't ever predict it. Never. I won't sit there and say, oh, defeat. Yeah, I feel nervous, but I don't feel defeatist about it. I want to go in there, all guns blazing, excuse the pun.
And let's get real. They need to get some out of this game. You know, it's because we dropped points against the likes of Wolves and shit like that earlier on the season. You look at the league table right now. Okay, you know, we're sitting in respectable 5th position. But right down to 9th, they're on same points as us. Then you got Palace 1 point behind us. Brighton then down in 11th. Brentford down in 12th, you know. All then 2 points behind us, one loss, and all of a sudden we could be looking at bottom half of the table. And then all of a sudden, you know, there's massive questions around the whole project. At the end of the day, Frank needs to deliver in this game. We've got PSG coming up there off the back of this. We've got Fulham, which traditionally give us a difficult game. Newcastle away we've always took a spanking up there in recent years. The pressure is on to start delivering results. And that comes because he fluffed up some of the fixtures earlier on the season because of over-rotation and stuff like that. And some of that over-rotation is costing us in these games because there's no fluidity, there's no cohesion, there's no understanding of each other's games and stuff like that. At the end of the day, it's starting to turn into a real mess very, very quickly. And one win here would alleviate all that, take the pressure off them, and really change the course of Tottenham's season. I've been here long enough to know that if results keep going at this rate, very, very quickly, the confidence is drained from everybody. The belief is drained from everybody. You're back to square one. There's a need to turn up in this game and show something. I get it's a difficult task to win, but you have to go and show some fucking fight in this game. You can't be as dull and as lifeless and as flat as you were in the Chelsea game. We were that flat. I was about to whip out their machines and start pressing hearts and stuff like that. It was absolutely ridiculous. Another no-show like that, and there's going to be massive questions around the squad, around Thomas Frank, etc. There's a need to deliver here.
Oh,
but Dave, if you were talking me a 1-1 draw now, or a 2-2 draw, or any kind of a draw, right, Dave? No, if you offered me that now, I'd chop your right arm off and your left arm and your right leg and your left leg for that, mate. I really would. But
just leave me paralyzed.
No, well, yeah, okay, fine. I'll keep your legs then, but I'll take your right and your left arm then. But no, seriously, right? I would love to see us go and win, but I just can't see it, man. I'm not trying to be having a defeatist attitude. I can't see us doing it.
No, but one thing that annoys me is they had a couple of injuries a couple of years ago heading into a North London derby. They had nearly a whole team out of first 11 players injured, but their fans still came in expecting to beat us, still wanting to beat us. And, you know, we're already heading into that game with a defeatist attitude. You know, I can sit here and I can criticize the club for not having a winning attitude. I can sit here and criticize the players and the manager. But at the end of the day, what good is that if I don't have the winning attitude as well? You know, the fans also have to have a winning attitude, and you cannot be going into this game with a defeatist attitude. You just can't.
No,
it's pressure. It's elite level football. If you can't handle if you can't handle the heat in the kitchen, get out.
No, of course, Dave, I agree with you, right? But you've got to also, I know everyone's literally like saying this year, right? But I'm going to go on to the PSG game now as well, right? I can see us getting probably a draw out of that game as well, and that would also be a good result. Now, right? I know that's next week, right? And we want to talk about the Arsenal game, but I can see us picking up. I can see us picking up at least 2 points from the next 2 games, and that's in all competitions. Now, literally, right? I'm not trying to put Dave in any freezer. I'm just trying to be a realist. I'm not attacking him in any way. I'm just saying, right? That
let him into the kitchen, Ryan.
No, right? Realistically, though, I'm being realistic, yeah? Right? Okay, right? I'm hearing, yeah, right? That Arsenal have lost Saliba, is it? Or Gabriel, one of the two. Yeah. So, like, when you look at it like that, right? If you look at who their backup defenders are, yeah, there's Hincapié, right? There's another 7 defenders out there that I can't think of all their names, right? But who can fit into that squad? And this is why I'm blaming Enoch, because if we had even half of their reserve squad, right, or their subs, yeah, right, we would be in a much better position here. And
Yeah,
I blame England because
agree
they
with
don't
that.
spend the money.
I agree
They
with that.
don't
While
spend
The
the
I-
reality
money.
is we don't,
do
and
it.
we never have done.
The
Every other
goalpost-
manager's had the
And
same
while,
problems.
and while I agree with you, Ryan, where was this when other managers that you wanted out? And there's no excuse about Enoch then, nah? Like, come on, man. I agree with you, but this sounds like the biggest long list of excuses to why you're saying about people criticising Thomas Frank. And honestly, it's unacceptable.
No, Mia, I've only chased one manager out of this club, yeah, right, in the last 25, 30 years.
And
yeah,
where
right?
was the
And that
excuses
was
about Enoch then? Where was the excuse about Enoch then? I'm not going to go back on that because we're not going to go back there. But my point is that if you're going to do that, then you've got to be equal for everybody that you say that about with Enoch. Yes, I agree we haven't got the players, and I agree our squad depth isn't what like Arsenal's is. But still, Frank has been brought in here to do something. So don't sit here and make excuses because because people are criticising him.
Not having players, right? Not having players is not an excuse for not putting in performances. You can put in a performance, you can set up correctly, be brave, and get beat by a better team. And if that's the case, fair play. However, there's no excuse not to put in a shift against your rival like we did against Chelsea, who were actually not a much better team than we are. So for that, there's no excuse. Talent is
to be fair, it's almost the status quo actually of any manager of the last 4 or 5 seasons is to have virtually no players to pick from. It's kind of what we've almost grown accustomed to. It's basically the remit of being part of a Spurs manager is to have very few players to pick from and just having to deal with it and make sense of it. Really, it's also why you're paid the big bucks, and it's why you're at such a big club is you have to deal with that. You don't get that. You get that excuse occasionally, but you don't get it all the time. Hence why people got so upset with Ange about it because he just kept mentioning injuries. And then people just eventually just got tired of it. They were like, well, figure it out basically. And, so fair is fair at the end of the day. I think he just needs to, find a result somehow. If he gets a draw in this game, I think that would go a very long way with this fan base because you would, by getting a draw, you've done it against a team that, let's be honest, is one of the best in Europe at the minute. And then you're also with the fact of what I just mentioned, you've done it also without, the core of your best players, then you get sort of those compliments really. But it doesn't, I just don't think you can use the same copy paste excuse of he doesn't have the players every game. I think that works every now and again, but we saw that last season with Ange, it's not an excuse you can
That's
use
the
every
danger.
time.
There's a narrative form, and when we win, Thomas Frank is a genius, and he's the reason why we won. And when we lose, it's because he's no responsibility on it whatsoever. And it's the player's fault. I mean, it's inconsistent.
I just think you get the plaudits when you don't have if you don't have a ton of players to pick from and you get a result. I think you deserve your kudos and you get your
100%.
plaudits. But I just don't think you can. And then if he loses, all of a sudden, then he doesn't have the players. He doesn't have the players. It's like, well, it sounds like he's in a win-win scenario, basically. Like he can't be criticized, he can't lose.
If we can go to City and put in a performance, there's no reason I think why Frank can't rally the troops. And this is actually a time where we can rally the troops more because we haven't got maybe all of our players, and he can try and get them to say like, this is important. We need to do this. You need to put up a fight. You need, and if he can't do that, what the heck are we paying him for?
But City's a different animal.
I understand that.
We do well against
less
physical teams.
Because
physical teams give us issues.
But it's about the performance, Eugene. It's about performances that we've done well. We have had times where we have performed well, and if he can't rally the troops to perform well for this game out of all the games, then I don't know what we're paying him for.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, I agree, 1000%, and that's what I said. The result for me matters less than the performance.
Can I just say something then? Dave, you're probably, because I was on here when Conte was here, wasn't I? I'm not sure if I was around when Mourinho, but Conte, I definitely know I was around at some point of it. Now, can I just say, Dave, and I hope you will either tell me if I'm correct or not here, because you've got a better memory than me. But who was I blaming, right, at the time when Conte was here? Was I blaming Conte or was I blaming Enoch? Because this is where I'm not trying to have a go at Mia here. I'm not. But she's saying that I've got one whatever, I can't remember what she said now.
No, I know what you're saying. I think under Conte, I do think you had your gripes with Enoch and stuff like that, 100%, for sure. But with Ange Postecoglou, you just set unrealistic expectations from the very beginning. You absolutely hated the guy, which, look, you're entitled to your opinion. Well, you're right to hold that opinion if that's how you feel. But it just feels like, under Thomas Frank, I just feel like some of the stuff, you question under the previous managers, you're sort of giving Thomas Frank a free pass. And where I sort of fail to understand it is Thomas Frank should be under more scrutiny because he doesn't have the history behind him in terms of, on his CV of managing big clubs, winning trophies, being able to compete for honours and stuff like that. And that's where, I think the scrutiny should be on this guy, and that he has to earn the right to be Tottenham's manager to a certain degree. But look, I'm not going down this road. Ryan's deflecting yet again. I think this is like 4 weeks in a row now. He's used master tactics here, even to the point a few weeks ago, he now wanted Levy back. That's how much.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was, I don't know if it was Enoch that he was calling out. I think it was Levy, and now he wants Levy back. So I'm not too sure if that's how I remember it. Let's talk about a certain player up front. Mia, do we go with Richarlison with Colomwani being injured? Or do you give Dane Mbappe, Dane Scarlett a chance, Matisse Tell? I'm struggling with this one because I don't really like any of the options.
I'm not keen on any of the options. However, I know people are going to probably say something for me saying this, but I really think that Richarlison's probably our best option. And I know the ball bounces off of him a lot, but he has got that physicality in him. And I think this is a physical game, and I don't know if Tell has got that. And so I would probably play Richarlison. So out of all the options, I know that's not great. And I know people would think that Scarlett needs a chance. But in a game like this, would you risk playing him? Because he's still a bit of the unknown. It's a huge game. I know people say, well, maybe that pressure's good for him. But I just don't know. Like, we don't know if what he can bring enough. Like, we haven't seen enough of him, in my opinion. So I'd have to play Richarlison reluctantly before anyone gets on to me about it. Like, I'm reluctantly playing Richarlison.
Yeah, I don't think anyone should be criticized for an answer to this question. I don't think any of the options are ideal. I mean, Eugene, I've defended Richarlison in the past, but if you've been listening to me recently this season, I've been very frustrated with him. I think he's whiffed more headers and shots than he's actually made contact with this season. Do you go with a Matisse Tell or a Dane Scarlett, Eugene? It's a tough call for Frank.
I do not care who starts at the 9 as long as it's not him. I would bring in somebody from the stands. I cannot see Richarlison play for us anymore. So for me, Tell like anybody. I cannot watch him play. I just get an allergic reaction just seeing him, especially against Arsenal. I mean, the dark arts against Arsenal, acceptable. So maybe, but I just can't. I'm trying to force myself. I'm trying to be like, what? Maybe again, his diving, his dark arts are going to help us in this game. But on the other hand, I just cannot. I cannot do it.
You could see him getting a Rabana Lamella type finish.
I can see him missing a wide open header in like extra time to give us the win, like he's done many, many times. Like a chip, I just can see it happening, and I'm not going to be able to take it. I'm going to lose my mind. I can't.
I think if you wanted to, there's arguments to make for all three, to be fair.
Yeah, there is.
He's tell, he scored 2, didn't he? So in the last couple of weeks. So I think there's a case to say, that one touch and that strike, maybe that's all you're going to get against Arsenal. He's shown the ability to be able to do that. With Dane Scarlett, I know many people are opposed to it, and I think it's probably the wrong atmosphere to put him in if you are going to give him his opportunity. But Thomas Frank did say himself, he's an elite level finisher in training. He's shown, at the end of the day, that's one of our big problems, finishing off moves, so there's an argument to start to give him his opportunity. At the end of the day, everyone's looking for someone to solve the striker crisis. The only one that hasn't been given the run of games or afforded the opportunity really has been Dane Scarlett. So I think there's a case to give him an opportunity. Then with Richarlison, he did score against Man United. Now, I know he technically robbed Udaber's goal. However, sometimes a goal can be, it's just what a striker needs to sort of take off. And there's also an argument to say, you know, I did say we have to play our most physical players from the start. And to be fair,
yeah, that's me.
Richarlison will rough them up. You know, so I think there is a case to sort of start all three. Now, of course, it's not a great case, right? It's a weak case. If this went to court, you know, I'd probably be thrown out, to be honest with you, and stuff like that. But I would be more pushing towards Richie to rough them up, and then Dane Scarlett off the bench at some stage if we're still in the game, you know. Because look, like Thomas Frank said, and it was the same thing that they said about Harry Kane. He was great at finishing. That's one thing people always said about Harry Kane in training. His finishing was expert, and they worried about the rest of his game. But once we gave him the opportunity, all people expected the strikers to score goals. So there is a case for Dane Scarlett to get minutes here. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what? Oh,
it's
sorry,
just
Mia.
does Thomas Frank have the balls to do it? And judging by how tight them jeans are, I'm not quite so sure.
the thing is, it could be like a Hail Mary, right? I suppose if we've got nothing, if the game is a 1-0 and we're towards the endish part of the game, 60 minutes, put Dane Scarlett on, like, I suppose, yeah, like Hail Mary of what can he do? Show us, boy, what you can get on the pitch and do. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I just think Dane Scarlett, for me, like, this might be too much praise, but we are sometimes, like, with all of these options, like Richarlison, he has the physicality, but he doesn't have anything else. He can't finish, can't hold up the ball, makes poor decisions, just frustrating player to watch. Matisse Tell can kind of hold up the ball, but he can't do it in the way that you might need him to in a game like this, where you are coming up against more physical center backs, but he can finish, sorta. I think Matisse Tell better than at least some of the others. With Dane Scarlett, it's just what we've seen from him is that he could be capable of most of those things. We just haven't been given him the chance to really do that. He does seem physical enough. He does seem he's okay in the air. He does have better hold-up play for sure than Richarlison. I think, like Eugene says, almost you could take someone out from the stands and do a better hold-up play than Richie does. But I don't know. I agree with Dave. I think you can make a case really for all three, but none of them are easy, really, which is why I'm also struggling with whether you go with a front two to have someone alongside Richie, or you go with a front three. It's the toughest calls really are with the forward line, you know, in this game.
See, do you know what, Jack? Right, I can't believe I'm going to say this because me and Mia do not agree on a lot of things here, but I'm agreeing with Mia, right? And it's not even up to a point. I'm actually going to over agree with her here, right? I think we have Richarlison playing, but I also think we have someone like a Dane Scarlett next to him, because right, if he's like whoever just said it, whether it was Jack or Dave that said it, if he's that much of an elite finisher, like in training,
well,
right,
that's what Frank says.
Okay, so
that's rubbish.
Right, if that's the case, if that is the case, yeah, right, I didn't know who said it. That's why I wasn't going to quote whoever said it, but now I know it's you, Dave. So, right,
no,
if that is the case, well, no, you said it to us, and because Frank said it, and that's why I didn't know who said it at first. So, if he is an elite finisher, right, in training, then I don't see why we don't give him a chance with Richarlison next to him. So, you know, like Dave, you know, like when we used to have the was it the it was the Berbatov, I think it was the Berbatov King.
Yeah, Berbatov Keane, yeah.
Oh my God. Right, if we had that, yeah, if we had that, right, in this game, right, I wouldn't mind seeing that. Do you know why? Because it will. To me, I know it's going to sound silly to say, but it will feel nostalgic, right, for starters. But then will it work? We've seen in the past it works. So, okay, Richarlison's physically going to be able to take people off the ball like left, right and centre and whatever, right? And then all that leaves is Scarlett having to run in, and if he run in on goal, and if he is like what you said he is, yeah, right, or I know you didn't say it personally, but if he is that elite finisher, like we're being told he is, then he'll put the ball in the back of the net, and that's why I think we start with two up front. And I've been calling this for some time, Dave. If you don't recall, I've been saying let's play two up front, Whether
I
it's
swear to
Tell,
God.
okay, I haven't, like, I haven't said it's going to be Scarlett, but if we play two up front with someone up there with Richarlison, I can't see how that will affect us in any way. We play
Here's
four
exactly
at the back.
what you said about Dan Scarlett, just to clear it up. I think he's a great player, a fantastic finisher, left foot and right foot. He needs to play minutes and games.
I mean,
the
Scarlet hype is great. Like, he couldn't hack it in League One or Championship, and now I swear to God, if I see Palini Bentancur and then Richarlison Scarlett up front, our two strikers, you know that meme where the boardroom and then the guy gets up and jumps, and jumps from the window. That might be me seeing Richarlison and Scarlett play against Arsenal for us, two up top. I swear I'm not going to be able to take it. That
This
would
is
be
where I
look,
do
I-
have sympathy,
step too
though, for
much.
Frank. I don't think any of the options are ideal or obvious, really. So,
But Tell
it's
at
just-
least with Tell and Odegaard, like, they're going to be with us for a while. They're part of the long-term plan, so give them experience in big games. Richarlison is going to be gone next season, hopefully. Scarlett is not good enough to play in the Prem. It's obvious. So just give the players who'll be here for the long term a chance to prove themselves in big games. So I would just go with Tell and Odegaard.
But then how do you know he's not good enough, though,
Because
Eugene, right? When
he couldn't hack it
hasn't
in League
even
One
had the
right now,
chance.
and he's not 17. He's what, 21 now?
He's
Yeah,
older.
but he
He's
hasn't had
22,
the
I think.
chance. He hasn't had the chance in the Premier League because no one's wanted to play him. So
Right now
why?
in
How
League One
you
or
can't say
Championship.
that until he's had a run of games. You can't say whether he has or he hasn't got. If he is or isn't good enough for the Premier League. Wait until
He
he's
couldn't get
played
playing time
like
in
10, 15
League
games.
One. He couldn't get on the pitch playing in League One, and he couldn't like score consistently. If he couldn't do it in League One, you think he's going to do it in the Prem?
Well, yeah, he could do because maybe he's like. But unfortunately, to say, Dave, right, and I'm going to agree with you on this, right? He might actually turn around and be one of these players, yeah, right, who want to actually play only the big games.
To be fair, I think Eugene has a point, right? But I think with the other options being so bad, that's where the talking point comes in. And when you go back to the games that Dan Scarlett has played in recent times, he's had an impact. Ipswich off the bench last year, creating an assist for Kulusevski. We were playing Elfsborg in Europa League last year. We were 1-0 up, struggling. He scored one, set up one. He had an impact not so long ago as well. And for me, I think when you look at the other options struggling, I think that's where the conversation comes around. And, Spurs were at this point before when we had the likes of Soldado, paid big money from Real Madrid, etc. Wasn't performing. Tim Sherwood wasn't happy with it, so he just gave the academy kid a chance. And that academy kid was Harry Kane, and we never looked back since. And I think, look, should he start away at North London Derby? No, I think you killed the kid's career before you even get it going, to be honest with you. But I think is there a case to bring him off the bench at some point and give him a couple of minutes and see what he could do? I think, yeah, I would.
I agree.
But Joe else I would say as well is that, as I said, it's going to be a physical game. I don't think, as much as I really like Odegaard and I want Tell to come good, and I do think they've improved, especially Odegaard, I think he's definitely improving. I don't think physically against their defenders, he's strong enough. That's why I wouldn't necessarily pick them. It's more to do with the physicality. I just don't think that Odegaard has got that yet.
Well, Jamal Duncan here with all the Richarlison talk. He says, everyone says Richie is physical, but all he does is fall down. I remember that song, I get knocked down, but I get up again. I mean, it so applies to Richarlison. It's unbelievable. He says, no, man, I'm over it. So, Jamal, I mean, look, no need to hide your feelings when it comes to Richarlison whatsoever.
Kind of agree.
But look, I think, you sum up how many people feel about when it comes to Richarlison, to be honest with you. He's just one of them. He's just so unreliable when you select them. Like, I had my hands on my head when we selected him against PSG. It was unreal that night. You know what I mean? And then you sort of advocate for him to start. And then the next week, he's like a bag of shit. He's falling over left, right, and center, trying to con the referee. The ball's bouncing off him, going everywhere. He's just an absolute chaos merchant. But in a North London derby, where you do need a striker that is just going to shit house, with the limited options we have, I think he has to play him, to be honest with you. I think with Matisse Tell, he doesn't really compete for these long balls or these out balls that we're going to need, whereas Richarlison will. And I think
Dave,
this is
if I
where
was
I
the
think
manager,
Thomas Frank needs to be a bit clever, though. He needs to realize that Richarlison is a guy that just falls around there when the ball does ricochet off him. But I would argue that's where he needs to be clever. If we're playing that long out ball, instruct one of your wingers to come in and get closer to him to pick up that second ball. One of your midfielders to break up towards him to pick up that second ball. And I think that's where he doesn't maybe help himself in that regard. I think, if he's going to start Richarlison, he has to get a player in and around him to pick up that loose ball. But this is where we're at, Jamal. Look, at the end of the day, I shouldn't be blamed for this. In fact, I take myself away from all blame because I was one of the only ones that said we shouldn't sell Harry Kane. So I will let everyone else that said it was a good idea to sell the guy deal with this problem. I'm out. Jack, over to you.
I have a solution, actually. Sorry. I have a solution.
No, go ahead.
At the 9, Van der Ven. He's the best finisher. He's the best attacker
Yeah,
on the team. I swear. No, actually, I'm being serious. I'm more confident in Van der Ven being up front than any of our attackers, and that includes Kudus. Put Van der Ven at the 9, and I'm certain he's gonna show more than our attackers have.
I agree. I think actually the best finishers in the club are Van de Ven, Romero, Palhinha, and probably Sarr maybe afterwards. I might say,
which is not a good thing. Which is not a good thing.
Not a good thing at all.
Well, actually, Van de Ven used to play. Van de Ven used to play striker, didn't he? That's what he said.
Exactly.
I've seen better finishes from all of our defenders than any of and midfielders really than.
I'm not even joking. I would play him at the 9.
I'm not joking.
He'll score.
He's got the pace. State of affairs. Yeah.
He's got the tech. He's physical. He's got that Dutch total football training. He can, do well on the ball. He can pass. He'd be a very good striker.
Probably has he could probably be a Holland, in another life, really. Someone like Van de Ven, maybe if he had stuck with striker with the pace that he has. Exactly. Really appreciate your support, Jamal. For Iceman, man, I think they're like, you can email us and then Dave can send you over the link. That would work in order to get the link. We're only going to be on for another 15 minutes or so, I think. But this would be quickly, Iceman. If you are watching, Ryan, I'm just trying to show him something here. The way that everyone does it, Iceman, is that you would go to the YouTube page, you would click on the YouTube page, and then you go over to this post section over here. If you see it like this, it could be on your phone, it could be on your laptop, your computer. You go over this post section, and then it would be there. If you are a member, fan show member, the channel would be there in the post section for you. So hopefully that's a demonstration for you and for anyone else. And then if you want to know the email, it's in the description of all the videos. So that's 2 ways for us to sort of get you on the show if you would like. Iceman, sorry about that. Ryan, you seem like you want to come in.
Yeah, I wanted to just ask a question, right? And it's kind of interesting because it's been going around, right? Now, I don't know how true this could be, but would you take Endrick on loan, right, till the end of the season?
No.
Right, if Real Madrid were to pay all these wages?
No. And very random question. Where did that come from?
I'm not going to say where I've heard it from, but I have heard it going around. But would anyone take Endrick on loan for 6 months if Real Madrid were to pay all these wages?
No. And that would not be how it would work anyway. Just not how it works either. Matisse Tal, I would argue, is maybe even better than Endrick from what I've been able to see. Let's go to another question here, though. Let's see. Maybe put this one towards Mia and Eugene first, since I know their feelings are maybe a bit more balanced on Thomas Frank than maybe Ryan's. Is there any pressure on him to deliver in this game? Should there be any pressure? Mia, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I do think there should be a bit of pressure because these games are big games, and I don't see why any manager shouldn't have pressure. It don't matter who it was. There's always pressure in these kind of games. And I also think with the way we've been playing, especially what happened in the Chelsea game, the Man United game, I think there's pressure on him to improve how we're actually playing. And I think that's probably the biggest sticking point. I don't think result. I think result isn't quite the issue. I think if we played and we gave it our all to actually try and win the game, I think that less fans will be grumbling, and I think there'll be less pressure on him, because I think then people will see roots of like shoots of actual improvement in that case. And I think that's where people are getting a bit fed up, is the way that we're playing. So yeah, I think that there is pressure on him, absolutely, but I don't think it's pressure to win. I think it's pressure to do better when we're actually playing in these games, to actually look like we're going to try to win them instead of not try to lose them, because I think that's what he's been doing. He's been playing not to lose, not to try and win it, and that's just defeats the object of football. Football is about winning the game. It's about winning with style, and the game is about glory, no?
Yeah.
So,
I think it would go a long way if he were to pull off a result here. I think there would still be a lot of questions around Thomas Frank especially if he were to lose miserably in this game. If we were to get really walloped, I think there rightfully would be questions, still to be asked about the guy. If he gives a good performance and we somehow snag a result out of it, I think it would go a very long way. So that
yeah,
would
as I
probably
say,
show that
Jack,
there is pressure then to some degree.
yeah, and I think, as I say, Jack, I don't think it's even about getting a result. I think even if we say we lost the game 1-0, I think that if we tried and looked like we were trying to win the game, I think that people would accept that, because I think they would say, well, at least we bloody well tried. At least we tried to win it. And I think that's where the pressure is. I don't think it's the result in this game, because historically we haven't done well in this game. But I do think it's about the trying in the game. It's about making sure we leave it all out there on the pitch. And I think we haven't been doing that with the way we've been playing. So I think that's the part that's important.
Yeah, I agree with the end of what Mia said there, Eugene, right? Is that it's probably just about showing some type of bravery in this game, even if it were to end up petering out to a 1-0 with Arsenal winning. At least if we showed that we had some type of endeavor and at least gave some type of go in this game, that probably would be somewhat of a positive for the fan base. Like, just anything but a Chelsea-like performance, really.
Oh, spot on. I agree with Mia, and that's what I've been saying for a while. I mean, pressure is on Frank, but not because of this game by itself, but because the way we've been playing this season. And getting a result or winning will go a long way for the fans to get back on his side. But for me, since we're not going for the league this season, I want a manager to instill a winning mentality and setting up not to lose every single week, even if that gets us points short term. Long term, I don't feel like it's the right thing for the club. Right? We need to be brave, especially now that it's a project that we're building towards something. A manager needs to install a winning mentality. And again, with Ange, he failed tactically. Execution wasn't there. But what I liked is the mentality that we go at teams, we're going to try to win. Just execution wasn't there. So given where we are as a club, I want Frank to show intent, as Mia said, as you said, Jack. So if we lose, but give it a go, I'm okay with that. But if we do win, if we pull it off, Frank is going to get a few more weeks from fans, including myself.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I think that's Brian. Just sort of maybe one of the last questions of the evening is just as long as Frank doesn't repeat like what we saw against Chelsea, I think the fans will be relatively satisfied.
Look, right, I'm gonna keep regurgitating this for as long as it takes for the rest of the season. Like I've said, start to season, he gets a free pass. Right, whatever happens here happens. Right, we haven't got the players. ENIC need to either buck up their ideas, get these players in January and the summer. Right, even though I know they won't, because they're just gonna do what Richarlison does, just shit asses their way through another two windows. Because Dave, even that's what's going to happen with ENIC. ENIC it's still ENIC, right? Even if it's the Lewis kids involved, it's still ENIC. They're not going to change for love nor money. So Frank he's doing this with one hand tied behind his back. Until we get new owners in, even though I hear this where people say, well, they're not going to sell because they want better. No, they don't. It's still Enoch. This is why, and that's why I'm saying this year he gets a free pass. He doesn't get no criticism off of me.
I don't know if I want to go down this rabbit hole with you, Ryan. I think I know where it's going to end, but
but
I mean,
Jack,
I
it's
just
so much fun. Can't
it
ask
can be
one.
sometimes, but
Can I
we're
ask
towards.
one thing? If he finishes 17th, will that be a free pass then if he finishes 17th, Ryan?
No.
So why is that a free? It's not a free pass then that he
Yeah,
gets.
it's not
So
free
he
pass.
hasn't.
Yeah, good question, Mia.
No,
Always
it's a
asking
free
the
pass as
question.
long as he finishes higher up in the league and he does better than where we finished last season, right? As long
Well,
as
that's
he's in
not
the
a
top
free
half
pass.
and he comes.
What about
But that's not
15th
a
right
free
now? Is
pass
that
then.
acceptable? Or 14th? Is 14th better than 17th? Is that acceptable?
No. Like
So
I
it's not
said,
a free
my
pass.
prediction at the beginning of the season, right, was to finish between 7th and 8th, right? And whichever way I look at it, right, if he finishes there, I'm happy. Anything lower, then from next season, there's going to be questions being asked straight from the get-go. But at the same time, I've got to understand that Enoch are a problem, and they are the biggest problem out there. They have been for 25 years.
No, I think everyone agrees with that. But at the end of the day, you know, whoever's working underneath them, it's still up to them to get the best out of the circumstances. It's the same as in any walk of life, any job, anything like that. It's the reality at the end of the day. Anyway, we spoke about this earlier on in the show. I'm not going to go back down that rabbit hole like Jacko says. Anything else we haven't spoke about, Jack?
Trying to look here, some good questions that are just. Does anyone have any thoughts? Maybe this is a little bit different from the North London Derby situation, but has anyone seen the news around Yves Bissouma contract, whether you would extend it or not? You know, just for
what?
Saving him from a free transfer. Apparently, that's the rumor that's gone about, that Spurs might extend his contract so they don't lose him on a free. What would you do, Eugene?
That would be so Spursy. Just get him out. Get him out. Bentancur signed this new deal, which to me was a mistake. For some reason, we care more about, saving the value of the players, and then we cannot sell him and get rid of him. And then we complain that our squad is bloated. We don't have any homegrown players. Just get him gone, like big teams do, right? The big teams, they're okay letting players go on a free. And Bissouma would be what, 10 million right now at this point, 15 tops. So it's not like he's a top player who we're gonna get 50 million. Just get him gone. I forgot he even existed, that he was still alive. Get him gone. Get all the draws out. Do not give anybody extensions or new contracts. Otherwise, it will be impossible to rebuild. Because even this season, we heard, we cannot sign more players because our squad is too big. Well, if that's the case, get rid of the players who are not good enough. Do not give Bentancur's new contract. Do not resign Bissouma. Get them all out so you have squad space to sign new players. This would be ridiculous. If they give him a contract, that would be insane to me. That would tell me that actually that Frank does not call the shots. So obviously Frank doesn't want him in the team. So if Bissouma gets resigned, it would be same old way we do business, that we don't listen to managers. We don't care what they think. It's all about business and money. And Bissouma will be on the books for the next 4 years, not playing a minute of football.
That
would be really Spursy.
Just quickly, I don't think it's actually offering a new contract. I think they have an option to trigger it by another year. So that only adds on a 1 year extension. So it's up this summer, but they have an option to trigger it by a year. But they'll have to do it before January, because come January, you can start negotiating with clubs across Europe anyway, across the world.
Yeah, I agree with everything.
Yeah, do you know what,
Eugene
though?
said.
With this Yves Bissouma problem, right? I'm not even torn. I'm angry at this point with Yves, right? And Yves, I think, I agree with Eugene, and I barely ever agree with whatever Eugene says, but I agree with Eugene.
It's twice you said
Get
that
him
today.
gone. Yeah, I know. And for God's sake, just get him gone. He is a liability, or in the words of Thomas Frank, not my words, Thomas Frank's words, just like you said earlier, he's a dickhead. So he doesn't want them kind of players in the club. So please do not offer him this contract. Let him go for nothing. Please, I am begging you, if you're going to do something, Enoch, start off by doing this. Prove me wrong. Then go out there with that wage packet that Yves was on, whatever it is. I don't know how much it is, Dave, but it could be 70, it could be 100. I don't know. I don't care
I'll
either.
find out, give me a second.
Yeah. And whilst you're finding that out, I'll continue what I'm saying. He needs to be gone. And with whatever his wage, whatever Dave comes back with his wage, it might not be a big sum. It might be a big sum. I don't know. But we then use that wages to get someone else who's better than him with that kind of money, if not more, just to boost up the quality of player. Okay, so then that's nothing. So, right, we just use that 55,000 on top of whatever else and get another good player. And someone like a Xavi Simons, like a Polinia, like a Kudos. Get us some of those kind of players in, but up front, and I will be starting to believe that Enoch are different. But until then, Enoch, just Foxtrot Oscar out of my club and do something and sell this club to, I don't care whether it's the Saudis, whether it's Americans, I really couldn't give a damn at the moment. Just sell this club if you're not going to go out there and spend the money.
Yeah. I follow Basuma on Instagram. Actually, if he's only making 55,000 in terms of footballing terms, he seems to spend a lot more money than the guys who are in triple. It seems like
it'd be one of them. He'd be broke, within 5 years of his playing career.
He lives a pretty lavish lifestyle, from what I can tell, for a guy that's earning a lot less than.
If he hasn't invested it and he's just bought like good clothes, he's got a massive speaker. So I loves that speaker.
No, he gets private jets all the time, like private limos all the time.
Good
like
night.
he's
investing his money in Louis Vuitton.
Yeah,
the Louis Vuitton bags hold their value. So that's
Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton is a value. I'm going to say this because I love my Louis Vuitton. But
there you go.
Well, the wash bags are.
I'm just saying, like I hope he has an accountant, by the time he retires, because
Well, I hope he's invested money in property.
I hope he's had some businesses or something, because he definitely spends his money more than some of these other players.
I agree. Like, I think I've always been somebody who said like every bit of money, obviously you don't want to lose money, but I think with Basuma we're going to struggle to find a team for him, and because that's the case, I think we should just let him go on a free, because if we're like in an erring, he don't want to go to this club, he don't want to go to that club, we don't want that, because then we're going to be stuck with him for another year paying his wages, man, and I think that's not worth it. It's not worth the hassle, basically. I think we should just get him off the books, because he obviously has caused a bit of a ruckus the way he's behaved, and that's not acceptable, which is unfortunate, because I quite like his vibe. Like, he's got quite a good vibe about him, but he hasn't got a good footballing vibe, and that's not what you want when it comes to a football team, and you've got to be a team player, and he hasn't got that obviously about him to be a team player, to put his head in the game and be a team player. So for me, it's best to let him go. That's one person off the books, isn't it, that we want off the books.
He's a sort of guy, if you got a free weekend, hit me up. He's going to make it exciting and fun. But, when it comes to relying on the guy, on a football pitch, he's just not that. And, to Stevie's point, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing and expecting different results. At the end of the day, we're trying to cultivate a winning atmosphere here at Tottenham. The manager doesn't want him. That's been clear. Even when he wasn't injured, he didn't pick him. He was nowhere near match day squads. Just get him gone. He looks, for me, he's not a player that I think any manager going into any club is going to say to the owner, go and get me this guy. I'm going to stake my job on this guy. He's a guy that I think most teams, even if Spurs do offer him an extra year, they're just going to sit there and wait to try and sign him on a free, because he's a player that is a gamble. It's a bit like an Ndombele situation now. Because of his attitude off the pitch, there's a big gamble taking him to any dressing room. The fact that he could destabilize it, pull a few people rogue with him and stuff like that, So for me, it's a gamble. And it's like, we need to make improvements to this squad come January. It's an easy one just to trim off the roster, get them gone, and reinvest them wages at the end of the day. It's a shame, though, when it comes to Basuma. I hate seeing these players, because they're the same with Endom Lardas as well. So much ability. And if you could just get their head right and into the game and, sort of live that footballer life, make football your life for like just 10 years, the guys could have reached the top of the game. You know, and it could have been, and it's just sad when I see this, really, because Basumi's got so much ability. It's just he just doesn't extract the best out of himself. When a guy doesn't want to do that, you're sort of chasing lost causes. And I learned that with Jose Mourinho to a certain degree. You know, he was out running around with Ndombele, you know, to sort of take the embarrassment away from him and stuff like that. And you know, at the end of the day, it still didn't really cop him on. So I just think it's one of them. You just got to cut your losses now and move on.
Well, what I will say, what I will say is, if Basima's ever watching this, I'm happy to go to a trip to Louis Vuitton with you. I'll happily go to Louis Vuitton and look at all the lovely bags in there.
Look, if you got a party, you know, I'm sure he'll have DJ services available. You know, he's a guy that loves isn't he? Wasn't he in control of the music in the dressing room and stuff like that for a while?
Yeah.
But you know, like on a serious note, I just don't. Some players, or maybe most players, they don't love the game. For them, it's a job. Like Ndombele's, Basuma's. So you can tell once they get a good salary, they're just not as hungry as they were to get that money. So the player is just obvious. It's a job. They don't love the game, and I don't want those players on my team. And again, like, it's not even about him. It's the club's, like, the way we do business. We reward average players with contracts. If we want to make that leap and become a big club, we should be ruthless, and we should not reward average players.
Exactly.
Again, let them go on a free. That's what big clubs do. And we've been trying to save their value too much, and we're stuck with players for 5 years, like Richarlison's, Bentancur's, Basuma's. We cannot keep doing it and expect a different result.
You're absolutely spot on. Like, if you want to cultivate a performance-based sort of environment, you know, where you got to be at peak level, you know, giving these guys contracts and extending it to try and extract as much sort of resale value doesn't cultivate that. In fact, it just sends out the signal to other players to start doing the same thing. We're just going to keep paying you regardless. But I think, you know, Stevie brings a great point here. You know, it brings up last summer. Basuma was on the market last summer. No one pulled the trigger on the guy. No one came in and offered the value. So there's a huge chance that that's going to happen again. And they're just going to sit there and wait for the contract to be up anyway. So I think it's a huge risk adding them on for another year, unless there's a guaranteed club that have come approaching Tottenham ahead of the January transfer window.
Yeah, I agree. So can I just ask one last question then, just before we
last one? We'll end up on it. We'll end up on Rhino's question.
Right, Mia. So I'm guessing you're agreeing with what I've said about well, I won't obviously re-say it again, but with what Frank has said, that he doesn't agree with any of the players that are actually being, you know, that word. Do you agree with me then with Basuma that he is that kind of player?
Yeah, I've said that, innit? Like I said, his attitude when it comes to his football ain't great. Like, that's not what you want. He got caught doing balloons. Like, that's not what you want. He's a role model. There's young players who people who look up to him, young kids. That's not the kind of player that you want to be caught doing stuff like that. And like I say, his vibe off the pitch, yeah, man, I'll go out partying with him and go and look at them Louis Vuitton bags, but he ain't good as it, like, when his head comes to the game, his head ain't in it. And that's the most important thing when it comes to the club, innit? He's got to have his head in the game. Like, when it comes to playing, he's got to be serious. He's got to take it. He doesn't take it serious enough for me. Like, he should be taking it seriously, and he don't. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you 100% there, Mia. 110%.
Well, I think we'll leave it there. Maybe some final words. Eugene, if you had any final words.
I agree with Mia, you know, and that's why, for me, Madison, even though he's a much, much better player, for me, he's in a similar boat. I feel like his stuff outside of football is more important, at least sometimes, than on the football pitch. And for me, I'm old school. I don't care what you do in your free time. You know, you can do what Wayne Rooney was doing if you're as good as him. You can do what, you know, top players are doing if on the pitch you perform. You can have as many balloons and you can do all that nonsense, but perform. If you don't perform, that's all I care about, you know. Then time
Absolutely.
to go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. Well, I think we'll leave it there. Everybody, get ready for the North London Derby. It's not an easy game to go into after the international break, little break that we had. So get ready, get pumped up for it. We'll see you all Sunday. We'll see you all tomorrow. We'll be talking with the Irish boys for a panel show, previewing the North London Derby further. And then on Friday, we'll just be getting ready for the game with preparing the pre-match build-up. Dave will be putting out his predicted lineup, members preview, all that good stuff. So get ready, everybody. The football's back, and it's coming back even bigger than ever with the North London Derby this weekend. We'll see you all soon. Come on, you Spurs. Yes, Dave.
Come on, you Spurs.
Lastly, no more defeatist attitude. I can put a compilation of 5 great goals scored by Spurs players away in the North London Derby, starting with David Bentley's absolute screamer. You can jack off to that for the next few days to get yourself up for the North London Derby game. I don't want to see the defeatist attitude. We're going to head to an Emirates. They're going to have their crest out everywhere. They're going to have flags out everywhere. You do the same in your environment this week at home. There's no better game to get all your fucking, have the pride in the badge, get all your merch out, all the crest everywhere, the flags out, and let's fucking get ourselves up for this one. Regardless of the situation, there's always fucking hope. And I learned that this week on International Break. Let's not give up.
Love that.
Get the DVDs out. I'm ready. I got my DVDs ready to go.
Dust off the dust of the DVD player. Artist
T, it didn't even exist anymore.
Thank you for the support. Jamal as well. Thank you, Ray, as well. Really appreciate you guys. Moondog and El Dante. Really appreciate your guys' support. We'll see you all next time, everybody. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, Frank, we trust.
Come on, you Spurs.